Hello audience, and welcome to this installment of Good or Bad. This time, we have Bioshock Infinite by Irrational Games, originally released in 2013. Is the game good, or is it bad? Find out tonight on The Debate.
How can we even debate this one? It's probably one of the most beautiful games ever made.
Yeah, sure.
I mean it.
Well,
okay, so to clarify, the game is totally a work of art. It has some of the most gorgeous visuals and art pieces I've ever seen in a game. Everything is so perfectly crafted that it makes the setting almost feel as real as it portrays itself to be.
Well, sure, it may look nice, but that doesn't actually mean it's any fun.
Sure, it's fun. You've got tons of magical powers and awesome weapons at your disposal. That's not even mentioning the amazing companion character that makes the game unlike anything else.
Yeah, that companion character. She's totally not constantly breaking the flow of the game by standing around and talking.
Is that really what you think?
Yes, she's constantly stopping and making some observation about the story or something. I get that the game devs want to tell their stories and all, but these guys just absolutely shove it down your throat. If you're not listening to a recording you found, then you're listening to characters. And if you're not doing that, then you're just killing baddies.
But, the whole point of the game is the story. In fact, it's why I really don't have much to say about this one. Otherwise, I'd spoil everything.
Exactly. Why couldn't the devs put that focus on the game itself? That way, when the player is 10 hours into the game, they don't find themselves bored because they've been doing the same thing over and over again.
Oh, I think you're missing the point here. Bioshock Infinite is a game that's focused on social commentary. It has themes about the true nature of mankind and tons of commentary expressed through the characters and dialogue. Most games don't even come close to doing this kind of storytelling.
Bo, that's exactly what's wrong with it. It's trying to be a video game, but instead I find myself far too distracted by this pretentious story that seems to just do what it wants sometimes.
I suppose that's fair enough, but I think that the investment in the characters is what makes me like this game so much. Elizabeth is just an awesome character who's really easy to fall in love with.
But what's the point of caring about anything when the story gets all convoluted and confusing if you miss even one of these so-called optional voice recordings?
Oh man, how to explain?
Seriously, the story is bogged down by the lack of clarity. The ending was so confusing I couldn't even spoil it if I wanted to.
I see your point, but what I see in Bioshock Infinite is a game that oozes its own culture and world. While the story itself may be confusing to some, it progressively brings the player into darker scenarios, all set in the fantastical city of Columbia.
That sounds great, Bo, but the level design doesn't exactly complement that either.
In this game's case, I'd argue the visual direction keeps the game from getting stale, alongside the story itself. They both complement each other, and the combat serves as a fun way to keep you engaged in the events happening in the narrative. From the very beginning, this game makes you take in the world of Columbia. The combat doesn't start until after the player has an understanding of how backwards the culture really is.
You'd think if this game was riding a moral high road, it would at least have the player not gruesomely eviscerating their enemies. Besides all that, the game at its core is a corridor shooter with magic. Its story is way too much of the game's primary focus, leaving the gameplay secondary to it.
I think the game does an incredible job of making the player believe the world around them. The culture of Columbia feels tangible with statues and beautiful propaganda written all throughout the city. Elizabeth and Booker's relationship is what motivates the player onward. The chemistry between both the characters and the actors is phenomenal. I was always questioning what was going to happen next, and if the characters would get the payoff they deserved.
Now it's your turn, audience. Is the game good, or is it bad? Let us know in the comments below. Just acknowledge it could have been way better.
It's perfectly fine. Besides, you never said anything about the gameplay itself being bad.
Yeah, well, so?
So you think it is good?
I never said that.
Admit it, Oh, it's fun.
I admit to nothing, Bo. Shut up.